Please can throw up. You remember the furnace effect on the floor beneath the reactor? Well, as far as we can work out, the fire's already burned halfway through this floor towards the water. When the temperature reaches 2,900 degrees, the uranium dioxide will melt and either burn or run its way through to hit the water.
The thermal explosion.
It would be enormous.
Far greater than anything we've seen. It will level 200 square kilometers. It'll also totally vaporize the fuel in the other 3 reactors. Most of Kiev would perish. And the Dnieper and Pripyat rivers, which supply, 30 million people with water, massively irradiated.
Northern Ukraine and most of Belarusia would be uninhabitable for anything up to a century.
This must not go beyond this room. Tell Viedov to keep monitoring it, and Negasov, I want a plan.
I am a committed communist. But as the days unfold at Chernobyl, I begin to see a face of the Soviet people that even I had stopped dreaming of. There's no fuss, no waste. A further 116,000 people are evacuated, a decision that would have taken months, taken in minutes. After years of stagnation and self-serving bureaucracy, there's now only passion and an almost brutal decisiveness. In the committee, we start using the phrase counting lives when a suggested task comes with a figure of how many men might be lost getting it done. The responsibility not to make mistakes, not to waste life is a terrible privilege.
Ready? Radiation is up. 2 million curious yesterday, 4 million today.
Shit!
What does this mean?
It means it's getting hotter, a lot hotter.
We're heading for meltdown.
Unless we can clear the water from beneath the reactor, the explosion we were talking about is inevitable.
What options do we have?
Well, we have to count lives. The firemen again, to pump out the vents in the basement area. We also need to open these gate valves in the bubbler pool. The problem is they're underwater, highly radioactive water. I've ordered some thick wetsuits, but we need a couple of volunteers to swim down and open them by hand. We've seen so many walking dead and sent so many to their deaths, but never with such certainty.
There is no immediate threat of thermal explosion. Repeat, no immediate threat of thermal explosion.
We triumphed, and 1 million lives were saved. But I could already see what lay ahead. Years of clear-up, of investigation, and of blame. 14 days after the explosion, the first radiation victims, the men from the control room, begin to die. Many see this as a kind of justice. But the truth is more dreadful than that. They are no different from the men who saved us. But instead of telling them the risks, the truth about the rods, the reactor, we systematically withheld it. And with all their Soviet hearts, they trusted us. Convince a man he can fly and disaster is inevitable.
Mr. Legasov, the work you have done is a credit to you and your institute. And your report, and the way you reached your conclusions, are of the highest order. The highest. But you will not read this to the international community in Vienna. You simply will not. Now, the Politburo have appointed you to present the report, so there is nothing that I can do to prevent you going.
Sir, I'm a scientist. I don't believe we can continue...
You are not a scientist. You are a politician. Soon you realize that. Tomorrow, the Politburo will publish their judgment that the operators perpetrated a series of crude violations. And you propose to contradict the Politburo?
They disobeyed the rules, but they weren't aware of the facts.
Your report will be examined and rewritten by a committee of our own physicists. They will remove any reference to known flaws in the reactor design, the tips of the rods, etc. They will make more clear the shortcomings of the control room staff. And you will present that report in Vienna this August.
I did not speak out. I sat before the world in Vienna and blamed those young men at the controls. I made no mention of the role I'd played in their ignorance. I've tried to speak out since, to topple the myth that I helped create, but the papers I write, interviews I give, are not published. I've done nothing but damage my career and my standing. It's now 2 years to the day since the accident. And I have nothing. Which I think is just.
Ze waren jong, sportief en kerngezond. Toch vielen ze plots dood. Waarom sterven jonge sporters aan een hartstilstand? Cardiologen ontrafelen het geheim achter hun plotse dood. Volgende week in Overleven.